So thank you very much for this opportunity and for allowing us to share with you today in this panel that we think that, we are passionate about talking about the patient experience in healthcare. So we are going to talk about patient experience, innovation, and how the patient experience can be part of the therapy, in fact. So first of all, before presenting the panelists, let me introduce a little bit the reason why we are here. I'm Chelo Fernandez. I work for the Mobile World Capital Foundation. Most of you will know about or will have heard about the Mobile World Congress. Mobile World Capital is the foundation behind the Mobile World Congress and is working during the whole year, making initiatives that, let's say, are related with the speech and the storytelling that we bring to the Mobile World Congress every year. So, related with this storytelling, one of the initiatives that we started to implement 2 years ago was, as Marta Ordech will explain, that is, she is the person that was collaborating with this initiative that we want to talk about today, that is Hub the Hospital. She was in charge of the whole collaboration and whole coordination of the initiative. So I will ask Marta to explain a little bit the initiative because I think it's a good context before starting to talk about the patient experience, innovation, and so on. So Marta, please explain this initiative. Hub the Hospital.
Thank you, Chelo. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. And as Chelo was explaining, I work for a company called Garage Stories, which is an innovation lab. And back in 2021, we started talking with the Mobile World Capital. How could we achieve 3 things? In the first place was how could we build, during times of COVID, still relevant use cases with emerging technologies? Because sometimes there is a lot of technologies that are really flashy, but you are lacking this value proposition. So in the first place, we wanted to do that. And healthcare was the perfect opportunity, also in collaboration with Sant Joan de Déu. Secondly, we also wanted to bridge Barcelona with other healthcare innovation hubs around the world. So in 2021, we bridged Barcelona with Boston. And this year it was Barcelona, Boston, and Toronto. We're always partnering with leading healthcare hospitals. And thirdly, but not lastly, which was one of the most important, is that we wanted to create an international experience where we could also involve the patients, the pediatric patients, and to be part of this international hackathon and this innovation process. So Hack the Hospital was a hackathon that was designed having in mind how could we put these patients on the spotlight and how we could create experience that will not only bring relevant solutions to the table, but also will involve them on the process. So that was it.
Okay. So thank you very much, Marta. Later on, after the panel or the round table, we will have the opportunity to, let's say, give the voice to the team, in fact, that won the Hub the Hospital edition for this year, and they will explain you the initiative, and you will, I think you will better understand the kind of initiatives that we are promoting from the Mobile World Capital. So let's go straight forward for the sake of the time, and let me introduce the panelists. So please, the team. Okay. So, thank you for being here. So, Patricia, okay, you will take seats. Yes, fantastic. So, on my left hand, Patricia Ripoll. She is patient advocacy, health advisor, and health and patient experience in Be Original consultancy company, but is also founder of Mama Tiene Migraña and founder and president of Visible Foundation. So as you can see, Patricia is a very entrepreneurship profile. And well, in fact, it's making visible the role or the goal of all these initiatives and the role that she is, let's say, covering professionally is making visible the passion in the healthcare system. So next, Jocelyn Copland from Toronto. She came as a representative of the hospital Sick Kids in Toronto, so thank you very much for the extra effort of 7 hours of flight to be sharing today with us. She has a clinical background in occupational therapy, and to be honest, before being here, I asked Jocelyn, explain me a little bit more, what's this of occupational therapy? And just to share with you, is something very relevant. So for those patients that need to stay for a long time in the hospital, they, let's say, lost connection with the day-to-day, normal life. And this role, occupational therapy, is in charge of reducing, mitigating this disconnection, So it's a very important role during the period of time that the patient is in the hospital and also before leaving the hospital, to facilitate this transition to the normal life. So she was dedicated to that, but she has turned to her passion towards improvement, innovation, and design. And recently graduated with a Master of Design in Strategic Foresight and Innovation, and now she is in charge of bringing the methods of design to the pediatric healthcare to help improve healthcare experiences for patients, families, and providers. So this is from the, let's say, professional perspective, but as a mother, in fact, you bring the perspective of a family that with 2 children who have been long-time patients in Sick Kids as well. So let's continue with Arnau Valls. He is telecommunication engineer, working as innovation coordinator at Sant Joan de Déu, the Barcelona Children's Hospital, and member of the i4Kids Pediatric Innovation Hub. So thank you for being here. And last but not least, we have the privilege, I think, to be here or to count with Daniel Marín, that is diagnosed of acute leukemia when he was 14 years. He is 20 now, okay? So 6 years ago, and he stayed in the hospital for 2 years. And currently, he's studying 3rd of medicine in Campus Clinic of University of Barcelona, and he's the president of the Young Patients Advisory Group Kids Barcelona from Hospital Sant Joan de Déu. So thank you all. I think it's a very well-balanced round table because there are people representing hospitals, but also representing the voice of the patient here. So let's straight forward because we don't have a lot of time. I think I want you need to talk. So I've been talking too long now. So let me introduce, or starting with an icebreaker question, okay? And the question is, what's the motivation that that made the decision to dedicate your time or your profession to give a voice to the patient? No?
Well, good morning, everybody. As you said, Chelo, I was diagnosed with leukemia 6 years ago. And since then, I wanted to help to the patients that were in my situation. And because of this, I decided to join Kids Barcelona. My desire is to help the patients to be as well as they could be in the hospital and having a nice time inside this situation that it's difficult sometimes.
Okay. Thank you. And Arnau, what about you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Chelo, for that. Thank you, Barcelona Health Hub and Health Revolution Congress for organizing this amazing event. First year, I hope that more will come. And being an engineer, a telecommunication engineer, I started by wanting to apply my technical knowledge in something that makes sense, that could have an impact. But I think while doing that, I've discovered that we are in amazing times in which technology and healthcare are merging more than ever, and the quantity of things that we could do now are exponentially growing. So I think we are in great times, and that's why I'm doing that.
Okay. And what about you, Jocelyn?
Yes, so I spent many, many years working as a clinician, as Cello mentioned, and as she also mentioned, my children were patients at the hospital, and so those gaps that I noticed in delivering the healthcare, when I experienced them on the other side, I noticed were huge. They just felt so much bigger than I perceived them as a clinician, and so I was looking to really understand how we could improve the service delivery, and that is why I started asking about how can improvement and innovation and how we can make things better.
Okay. Patricia?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you. It's a pleasure being here. My motivation to start to be a patient advocate, it's an individual motivation because I'm a migraine patient, and I'm living with chronic disease since I'm 7 years old. Then it's arrived a moment in my life that I have to stop my work, and then I decide to start talking about the disease and talking about how it's living with a chronic disease that is invisible. And then this is my motivation to help other patients to live with these chronic diseases and also try to be more visible in our healthcare system, because we are not visible, the patients. They are always talking about us, but without us.
Without you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very true. For many years has been like this, but fortunately, I think there is things are changing.
Yeah. Hope so.
Yeah. To put you in the center, I mean, no? So yes, many times in the hospitals, the procedures and everything has been, and I think is something natural. I'm not saying that in a let's say negative from a negative standpoint, but has been everything very thought, putting the health care professionals in the center, and I think it's normal. But at the same time, now is also the time for paying attention to the other side, no? To the patient as well. So both sides needs to be covered. It's not just one or the other. I think both things are really important. So it's the moment for putting, let's say, the focus on this part, the patient that was not so well covered, let's say. Okay? So I think we all agree on that. And let's start with the straightforward, with the first question of this panel, that is, apart from the icebreaker one. The first one is, I will ask you about what's the main challenge in pediatric innovation that you, let's say, has faced, no? In your day-to-day, from the different perspectives. I mean, obviously, from the hospital standpoint, they will face some, let's say, challenges. From the, let's say, patient standpoint, they will face different ones. So please, from your different perspectives, so Daniel, what's the, let's say, biggest challenge?
Well, in my group, in Kids Barcelona, one of the things that we see most is that most of the projects that come from to the hospital, they are not adapted to the pediatric population. And if we want to involucrate or involve the patients in the innovative process, I think that we should make projects that are adapted really or focused to the pediatric population. Most of the times, they are designed for adults and readapted to the pediatric population. But we should consider the creation of innovative projects that are focused directly on the pediatric population. And this is quite important, I think.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So what about you?
I absolutely agree with Dani. And one of the main challenges, I think, is this perception that there is in pediatrics, that there will be low returns on investment because there's a small market. And that makes a lack of therapies devices and solutions tailored and made for pediatric patients. So one of the main challenges is this need for resources for ethics and regulatory, and also for more investment on the development of therapies and solutions for pediatric patients, and putting the patient at the center, as Danny was saying, and doing all this process together with them, so that at the end we can have solutions that are adapted to their needs. At the end, they are not small adults, they are growing and in development, and their needs are absolutely different from those from adults in many cases. And there's some data that always strikes me, that is, although pediatric represent the 25%, so children represent the 25% of our present and the 100% of our future, on the last 12 years, less than 20% of the approved medical devices in the FDA were tailored and developed for pediatric populations. So, and if we go to rare diseases, that's even harder. So we have less than 10% in neonates and less than 50% of therapies developed and validated for pediatric patients.
Yeah.
So
When you say devices, for instance, tailored for pediatric purposes, you mean diagnosis, treatment, both?
both from medical devices, digital therapeutics, therapies, molecules, and pharmacological treatments, all are underrepresented as compared to adult population in pediatrics.
Yeah. Okay. Jocelyn.
Yes, as both Arnaud and Daniel have mentioned, putting the pediatric patient at the center is so important. And I find one of the challenges we have is capturing the diversity of voices to understand their needs. And when we think of children, we're pediatrics with children, but there's such a range. You know, there's infants and toddlers and school age and teenagers. And they all have very different needs and different voices, and we have a hard time capturing that, especially capturing it in sort of real time. I find the way we've been capturing their experience is to, months later they receive a survey in the mail or something. So we're working on improving that and digitizing and bringing it to real time, but we have had a challenge.
Yeah, really. Diversity, no? Complex context, because they are not coffee for everybody. So what is good for one is not good for the other, according the age.
Exactly.
Complicated, but it's still possible. No? And finally, Patricia.
Yeah, I think more or less my colleagues had said everything, but I think if we take in account the kids, sometimes women, we are invisible in this activity. And if we are patients and we are women, we are always invisible. We are not co-creating with women that are in the healthcare system. If we start with investigation, women are not included in this. There is a gender bias that is very clear. Then I think we have to work with the patients from the beginning and in all the stages, and to want to include patients in an actively way, because sometimes we are included just for a focus group or just for one shot activity, and then we need to be like in the pediatric center. We need to be here in a constant way. Then I think this is the most challenge activity that we have to front. And another thing, it's that we are not receiving the feedback about our approach. Then I think we need to have the feedback, because it's something that we are going to improve the results, and then the results, it's something that it's very important, and we need to be part of these results and the impact in our lives, because sometimes we only talk about numbers and we don't talk about the impact in our life.
So interest in this bias, gender bias, no?
Yeah.
That I was not noticing, but yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, for sure, this is a challenge for sure. So also the women maybe has been perceived more like caregivers, no?
Yeah.
And is because of that that is making more challenging just to take part as in a different role, let's say, no? Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, well noted. And how do you think we could done to involve patients in the innovation process? Because okay, patients has a voice. But let's say protocols in a hospital are very, let's say, considered something that is just for physicians or scientifics. And how to mix this and to involve the patient in this, let's say, innovative process, well, the innovation process, as to make an impact in the hospital protocols and processes, no? How we can, let's say, manage this? What do you think?
Well, I think the best example would be Kids Barcelona. The idea is to create groups that can work and co-create with the physicians and maybe pharma companies, and groups like Kids Barcelona that are groups that are composed by patients and non-patients that can give feedback or can give their point of view of the projects. And if we create projects with them, with us, with groups that have the experience of being a patient or just teenagers, we can ensure that these projects can be adapted to the, in my case, pediatric population, and also you can innovate with them. And the best or the most important part would be this one, that you will have their point of view, and you can ensure that what you are doing is focused in the pediatric population, and this innovation, it's like a review, to say it in a manner, it's reviewed by them, and well, that you can ensure that this will be a really good project.
Okay, so has the solid, let's say, foundations of a scientific, for instance, clinical trial, but at the same time has this more human
Yes.
way of implementing this.
I think that if you want to create something for teenagers or pediatric population, you should count on them. I mean, you should consider their opinion and points of view.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. What do you think now?
Yeah, I think it's key to have the patient at the center and involve them from the very beginning of the process of research and innovation, not only innovation, also research, also from the clinical trials, to follow the methodologies that are adapted to their needs, and not having them as a passive receiver of the solution at the end of the process, but giving them a voice from the very beginning. And I think here advocacy groups, Kids Barcelona, or volunteers can play a key role. But of course that needs also to be together with some education, so that they can learn what's the process of research and innovation, and have a voice that have some knowledge in giving and providing really good insights to this development. And then also we need to adapt some regulations and some help, financing help and focus and awareness on the need for innovating in pediatrics with the patient.
Okay, so this is the, let's say, perspective of San Juan de Deu. What about kids, sick kids in Toronto? You agree with that? Do you apply this philosophy of combining, let's say, passion with putting the passion in the innovation process itself?
Yes,
beginning.
we have been doing that. We've been co-creating with patients. It's newer to us, and we're starting to do it more and more. But I think to make it more successful, we need to integrate it into that patient journey, because right now it's something that's done sort of on top of or after the fact, or it's extra. It's not seen as part of the journey, and I think it would be much more successful if we could do that. The way, patients come and they're very used to being asked if they want to participate in research or a clinical trial. but they're never asked if they want to participate in innovation or co-creation. So I think it would be if we would make that part of what they're used to being asked and make it much easier and educate people about
Okay.
co-creation.
Fantastic. So also I think it's more, it helps to speeding. What do you think? Just to include, no, patients can help somehow to the better adoption of the protocols or maybe the therapies, this kind of stuff, no?
Yeah.
Because somehow they have taken part of the solution, no? And
Yeah.
you don't.
And
you don't
one
need
thing
to-
I've noticed is a bit of fear on our part when we ask them to co-create and
Yeah.
come up with their wonderful ideas and suggestions. We tend to be a little bit afraid that we won't be able to deliver what they're suggesting. But I think, again, that's a part of educating ourselves as hospital that
Okay.
to take their ideas and recognize what the problem is that they're trying to solve with those ideas. And that it's not an expectation, you know, you have to implement the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more, what problem is that solving for them, and finding a way that's feasible for the hospital.
Patricia, what do you think?
Well, I think it's almost said, but I think the most important thing is to promote the education and the empowerment of the patients, because we know that a lot of patients want to be there and want to be in the table, and also they have to be at the same level, okay? But we have to assure that they are, they know all the processes, they know how to give their opinion, then they have to be prepared to be there.
Empower them.
Yeah, empower and give them the education of the part about clinical trials or other things that they need to be there. And I think the way to achieve this, it's to create these patient advocacy groups in the hospitals, like they are doing in the kids, because you need to be prepared to discuss some things, and you need to be at the same level of the clinicians or the I don't know, the CEO of the hospital. Everyone has to be at the same point and in the same page,
Yes, that's-
in the same moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I think this is clear. And one thing, it's clear that everyone knows we don't have to suppose what the patients want or what they are expecting. We have to talk with them, and we have to manage these expectations between patients, professionals, and everyone. And we are going to achieve the best results. And sometimes, in the most of the cases, this is gonna have a result in the economical results of the hospital.
Yeah, it's, managing expectations is always a difficult part of the innovation process.
Yeah, the most.
So, finally, because of the sake of the time, and let's share individually. Let's share one experience that you think that is interesting to share with the audience. In your case, with Kids Barcelona, which one do you?
Well, I would
Right.
highlight two projects. One of them, you can explain it better now. But a year ago, we did a project that what we focused was on improving the intensive care unit of the hospital. We tried to adapt the room for improving the patient experience that for the patients that are staying there. And what we tried was to put a lot of focus in the tech that was used in the bedroom, that the patient could choose the light, choose maybe the music that wanted to and that she or he wanted to sound in the room, and to sum up was trying to improve the experience of the patient that is staying in the intensive care unit. And also we did a project that was focused on 3D modeling. And we use the 3D to explain a diagnose for patients. And maybe you can explain this one.
Yeah, that was also a nice process. An example of how patients can be involved into the process. We wanted to try to improve the way certain complex treatments, oncologic treatments, are explained to the patient and the family. And for that, we explored different technologies. One of them was 3D printing, and we've used and the help of Kids Barcelona to do an structured process of research to see if the comprehension was improved by this technology as you compare it to the normal way of doing it. So it was quite helpful, all the insights that we've got from that.
And somehow you can measure the impact, the positive impact, I guess, in this kind of initiatives. Somehow for the patient you notice an improvement in, I don't know, tolerance or whatever in the treatment.
Well, on that one, there was a structured way of research with some validated scales and tests, and the results were quite amazing. They've understood better what was going on, what was the disease, and what was the treatment that then they will have. And I think that improves also the way they focus then during the treatment, the different situations that they will have to go through.
Yeah.
Yes.
No?
It was a really nice project, and it was really useful to explain some complex diseases that maybe with a normal telling diagnose you could not explain as well as we did with the model.
So helping at the end
Yes,
of the day.
really useful.
Okay. What about Jocelyn in kids? In Sick Kids in Toronto?
Yeah.
An initiative you would like to share with us?
Well, we're starting a large capital redevelopment project. We're building a new Sick Kids of the future. And so we did co-design with the Children's Council and our family advisors to understand how to design the procedure rooms. And also being part of the hackathon was very timely for us. And the other thing we're doing right now, something that during the pandemic when the hospitals were so locked down and we had so much screening and monitoring of who is coming and going, which we weren't used to having. And then after the years of having that all taken away, we were looking at the experience of entering the hospital, like just the entrance, your welcome, your sense of security, and how we can improve that, because it became very...
Feel comfortable.
It felt, exactly. So we're in the process now of doing some co-design and understanding how to make a better welcome entry experience.
Okay, thank you. So finally, as same, somehow you notice some improvement in the, let's say, the process of the sickness itself that is improving this, taking care of the small details, and this is having a direct impact, I guess.
Exactly. It's your first touch point with the hospital, and if that experience is stressful, you carry that with you.
And stress is something negative for the treatments and for everything.
You
So
take it.
you reduce the stress, you improve the... Okay, clear. And what about Visible? Sorry.
Yeah.
You have some experience, initiative you want to share?
Yeah, we are working with hospitals, but we are also working with primary care centers, because I think it's something that sometimes we forgot, that in primary care centers we have to include patients in the decisions.
Very true, very true.
Yeah, patients group and patients that they are actively co-creating the process and co-design all the things. And we are working in these primary care centers, and we are working on the communication to improve the pathway of the patients, and also the language that they are using, the doctors, and also in the communication. Then I think language is something very important, because sometimes the doctors forgot that they are talking to people that they don't know nothing about medicine, and probably they are very good professionals in their sector, but not in medicine. Then it's something that we have to work. And on the other hand, I'm also working with the startups, because it's something that sometimes they forgot, that they have to cover a real unmet need for the patients, then to work with group of patients to check that if this need is something real and how they are evolving the solution, it's something that it's covering the needs of the patients. And then I think it's something that we have to work more in this way, that it's
very
two projects that we are
Interesting. So
working.
you start one step forward, let's say, in primary care, and also with the startups helping them. I guess they will appreciate a lot this,
Yeah.
because you ensure that they are focused in providing real solutions and not
Exactly.
inventing problems that doesn't exist.
Yeah, or lost thing in the digital part.
Okay. So, thank you very much. I think we are out of time now, and we need to let the stage for the people from that has, in fact, are the winners of Have the Hospital 2, the second edition. The number of the initiative is Room to Explore, and they are going to explain you that many things that we have been commenting, no? Improving the environment of the patients for making them feel better, closer, and so on and so forth. So, without any more, thank you for your attention.